Looking at what happened yesterday, look at the landscape of the NFL. Biggest news being Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott suffering a compound right ankle fracture, which essentially he dislocated his ankle. If you watch it live, I'm sorry. That was something where I was driving home, listening to the Colts game, cursing out Philip Rivers for throwing another pick. God. We'll talk about that in a few minutes here. And then I get home, and all of a sudden, Twitter explodes. Or I guess already exploded, but now I kind of, venture my way, find myself on the scene here, just to seeing everything about Dak Prescott. Thoughts and prayers about all athletes, all, fans of any team wishing their best for Dak Prescott. And then I watched the video. Wow, it's tough. If you're squeamish, if you missed it, I would probably suggest maybe don't watch it. ESPN, I watch a lot after the game. After the Lakers won and after the Sunday Night Football game, they blurred it out. They blurred out Dak's ankle because it is it's tough. It is definitely tough to look at. If you remember what Gordon Hayward's ankle looked like when he dislocated his ankle in the first game for the Celtics, I believe that was 2 years ago. It's a tough look. It's an absolutely tough look. So our thoughts and prayers, first of all, with Dak Prescott. We hope for a speedy recovery. He had surgery last night. According to all indications, it went well. He'll probably now miss the rest of the season. And there's really no, I guess, easy way to transition to this. But because of his contract situation, because he signed the franchise tag, so it's only a one-year deal, and he'll be a free agent after the season ends. What do the Cowboys do now? What do you do?
Good morning, Michael.
Because at least, looking at the landscape of what's out there, it's crazy to say this, but this is to me what's gonna happen. Andy Dalton, the current now quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, in a way will have control and will dictate the future of Dak Prescott in Dallas. And here's what I mean by that. If Andy Dalton plays well, if he steps in, leads this Cowboys team to the playoffs, leads them to contention, you know what this does? This opens up other quarterback avenues and other options for the Cowboys to consider in 2021. So after Dak got hurt midway through the third quarter, Andy Dalton stepped in, threw for 111 yards, but more importantly, game on the line, tied 34-34. He led the drive for the eventual game-winning walk-off field goal to give the Cowboys a lead. And it made on that drive 2 gorgeous throws to Michael Gallup. One on the run on the sideline, another deep bomb along the sideline, one for 19 yards, one for 38 yards. Andy Dalton stepped in fine. He played well. He led that Cowboys offense, and again, it's the Giants. They moved to 0-5, so, you want to take a little bit with the opponent, sure. But they won the game. Andy Dalton stepped in and helped win the game for the Cowboys. And now you look going forward, Andy Dalton, with the weapons that he has, in Amari Cooper, in Michael Gallup, in CeeDee Lamb, in Zeke Elliott, the offensive line is a little spotty, a little shaky. It's going to continue that way as we learn that Tyron Smith will be out for the rest of the year. That's a big blow. But this is the greatest group of talent that Andy Dalton's ever been around. Cincinnati, outside of A.J. Green, and that was when A.J. Green was on the field, there's not much to throw to. So look at now Andy Dalton having talent to throw to and rely on. Look at the fact that the division is just horrendous. The Cowboys right now are in first place with a 2-3 record. 2-3, first place in the NFC East. So you have a division that's absolutely wide open, up for the taking, with a team that's the most talented on paper of any team in the division. Let's also look at, too, Andy Dalton has led the Bengals to the playoffs. He's had regular season success. He's been in the playoffs 4 times. Now, he hasn't won a game. It's a whole different story. But it's like he's never been on the big stage. He's never guided the team to the playoffs. So it's set up here for Andy Dalton to have success. And if he does, if he uses the talent that he has, if he plays well, if he continues to lead the Cowboys to wins, this could have Jerry Jones come to the realization that, you know what? He doesn't need to break the bank, at the quarterback position. He can invest money elsewhere, which you look at the other side of the ball in the defense. They need a lot of help. Sign Dak Prescott to a massive, massive, massive deal. It's not going to make the defense any better. Dak Prescott was setting records. He threw for the most yards in NFL history through the first 4 games. Over 1,600 yards through the first 4 games. You know what the record was? 1-3. Because for how good he was, how good that offense was, that defense was pitiful, awful, and they couldn't overcome it. So now if Jerry realizes he can put money elsewhere, he doesn't need a top 5, a top 10 quarterback, or at least maybe even if you don't put Dak in that range, you don't need to pay a quarterback like he's top 5. He can invest money elsewhere because Jerry's a businessman. Maybe that will be the best thing for your team going forward to win another Super Bowl. So you look back at the last offer on the table. Dak rejected a deal back in March. 5 years, just about $34 million a year. So you want to do some rough math. It's basically 5 years, $175 million. Dak said no thanks. He wanted more. He was betting on himself. Well, if that price doesn't go down, if Dak goes firm at whatever he, in his mind, thinks he's worth, whether it's $200 million or maybe it's even more than that, if Jerry wasn't willing to meet it then, if he wasn't willing to meet it last year, if he was willing to take the gamble, maybe even potentially pay more if Dak Prescott plays well in order to keep him on the team for 5 years or more, that's a big gamble he took, and guess what? What's going to happen now if Dak's price doesn't go down? I don't think Jerry's going to be willing to meet it, to be honest. If Dak is firm or whatever he thinks he's worth, and Jerry Jones sits there in his owner's box the rest of the season, watches Andy Dalton have success, lead this team to a division title, maybe even win a game or two. I'm not saying Andy Dalton himself could be the answer, but now you open up other options. You explore. You see, listen, who's going to take the first pick? What if the Jets get the first pick? Is Sam Darnold on the market? Do you have an interest in Daniel Jones if the Giants get the first pick? Could Matt Ryan be on the chopping block with the Falcons now 0-5? I'm not saying Andy Dalton himself is the answer, but I'm saying if he plays well, he shows Jerry Jones that really you don't need a special elite type quarterback to run this offense and run it efficiently. This opens up other options. And guess what? You know what we know? As cold as this is, as harsh as this is, Jerry Jones isn't afraid to move on from his franchise quarterback. I mean, Dak Prescott knows that better than anybody. Cowboys draft Dak in 2016, just was going to be the backup, right? 4th round pick. It was Tony Romo's job. That was his team. Well, Tony Romo gets hurt in the preseason. Dak steps in. Cowboys off to a hot start. Tony Romo loses his job, retires to the broadcast booth. Jerry Jones is not afraid to move on from his quarterback if injuries become a concern. He did it with Tony Romo. He could do it here with Dak, depending on how Andy Dalton plays. Because guess what? The flip side, we talk about the best case scenario, right? If Andy Dalton plays well, again, this is the greatest group of talent he's ever been surrounded with. The division is just terrible. So there's a real chance he can play well, lead this team to the playoffs. But what if he doesn't play well? What if he struggles? What if he plays bad? Total opposite's true. Dak Prescott now has all the leverage. Because up until this point, and part of the negotiations and why we thought Dak had the leverage, but maybe in reality he didn't, going back to the negotiations last year and this summer, was that for the most part, the Cowboys really never knew how green the grass was on the other side. They never really knew what life without Dak was actually like. They had an idea, they had a thought, but they never actually had a reality. So now this is the reality hitting them in the face. They will truly see how much of an impact Dak Prescott has on the field. And if Andy Dalton struggles, if this offense just doesn't play as well as they did with Dak Prescott under center, if they miss the playoffs, all of a sudden now, maybe Jerry Jones has second thoughts. Maybe that wallet expands a little bit more. You know what? Now he's more willing to meet Dak Prescott's needs. Because it's totally possible that Jerry Jones and the Cowboys are taking Dak for granted. He's having success because the team we put around him is so good. Because I, speaking as Jerry Jones, did such a great job at general manager. I put all these pieces around him that really you could put anyone back there and they'll have success. Now we'll truly see that. So if that is the case, if Andy Dalton has success, if he plays well and leads him to the playoffs, Jerry Jones' theory is true. Now I think this means as harsh it is, and as sad as it is to have this, be the ending, I think that could mean the Cowboys could look elsewhere for a quarterback in 2021 that's not Dak Prescott. If Dak is still firm on the deal that he wants and the deal that he thinks he's worth. On the flip side, if Andy Dalton struggles, if that offense looked inept, if he just can't move the ball, can't utilize the weapons, all of a sudden now, Jerry has some decisions to make. He knows what life without Dak Prescott is like, and it's not a good life. So now all of a sudden, maybe he's more willing to go to Dak's side of the table. Maybe willing to cross that line and cater more to Dak than maybe other way around where he was hoping Dak was going to cater to him. So look at this injury and how brutal it is. It's going to be Andy Dalton's team the rest of the year. And good or bad, to me, Andy Dalton is going to have a major say on whether Dak is back in Dallas or not. That's, to me, it's easy, right? Jerry wasn't willing to go to the table and pay him the big money last year. He didn't think he was worth it in his mind. Well, now you're truly going to see Dak Prescott's worth. He's playing out of this world through 4.5 games. The Cowboys are 1-3. If anyone can have success in this offense, if it takes an average quarterback and they can really get lifted up by the talent around them, you don't have to break the bank. You don't have to shell out top 3, top 2 money if you don't think the quarterback and Dak Prescott is worth it. You can put money elsewhere, especially in your defense, because Lord knows that defense needs a lot of help. And if he's bad, like you said, Dak's price goes up, his leverage gets greater. Now the Cowboys are really stuck paying Dak even more than they were supposed to pay him last year. So it's crazy to say this, but Andy Dalton himself holds the keys to the future of Dak Prescott in Dallas. Good or bad, I think Andy Dalton will have a major factor as to what the quarterback situation will look like for Dallas Cowboys in 2021. So I'm curious your thoughts. Just first of all, seeing Andy Dalton step in last night, play well. Can he lead this team to the playoffs? Can he play well? And if he does play well, if he leads them to the playoffs, hell, even gets a playoff win, should the Cowboys keep him? Should they move on from Dak? I'm really curious your thoughts. Because now we play these hypotheticals in our head. And it is a very sad reality. I'm not losing light on that. But now reality is hitting Dallas in the face. In one way or another, whether they want to or not, they're going to have their answer of what life is without Dak. And either it's going to be a good life, where they finally learn their answer and can go a different direction, or they're going to realize this is horrible. We took this guy for granted, and you know what? We got to make sure he can stay and be in a Dallas Cowboys uniform for the foreseeable future. So I'm curious your thoughts. Can Andy Dalton lead this team to the playoffs? They're in first place right now. He led the game-winning drive and threw some great passes to Michael Gallup. He stepped in and played well. And if he does play well, should the Cowboys keep him?